we are abdicating those responsibilities. We are not debating the Patriot Act sufficiently. We're not having an open amendment process. Yes, am I pleased? It took me 3 days of sitting down here filibustering, but I'm going to get 2 amendment votes. I am very happy, and I am pleased that we came together to do that. I wish we would do more. I wish Senator Leahy's bill were being voted here on the floor. I wish there were a week's worth of debate. The thing is we come here to Washington expecting these grand debates. I've been here 4 months, but I expected that the important questions of the day would be debated back and forth. Instead, what happens so often is the votes are counted and recounted and laboriously counted. And when they know they can beat me, or when they know they can beat somebody else, then they allow the vote to come to the floor. But some, like Senator Leahy's bill, I'm suspicious that it's not going to be voted on because we may not be able to beat it, or they may not be able to beat it. I support it. So the question is, should we have some more debate in our country? We have important things pressing on us. I've been here for 4 months, and I'm concerned about the future of our country because of the debt burden, because of this enormous debt we're accumulating. But are we debating it fully? Are we talking about ways we could come together, how Republicans and Democrats, right and left, could come together to figure out a crisis, this crisis of debt? No, I think we're so afraid of debate. But particularly with the Patriot Act, the thing is with the Patriot Act is that it's so emotional, because anyone who stands up like myself and says we need to have protections for our people, that we shouldn't sift through every gun owner in America through their records, looking and just trolling through records. Interestingly, we have looked at 28 million electronic records when the Inspector General looked at this. 28 million electronic records. We've looked at 1,600,000 texts. Now, if you said to me, well, they asked a judge and they thought these were terrorists, I don't have a problem. Judge gives them a warrant and they look at these text messages or electronic records. But do you want them trolling through your Facebook? Do you want them trolling through your emails? Do you want a government that is unrestrained by law? This ultimately boils down to whether we believe in the rule of law. So often we give lip service to it on our side and the other side, and everybody says, we believe in the Constitution and the rule of law. When you need to protect the rule of law is when it's most unpopular. When everybody tells you that you're unpatriotic or you're for terrorism because you believe in the Constitution, that's when it's most precious. That's when it is that you need to stand up and say, no, we can fight, we can preserve our freedoms. We are who we are because of our freedoms and our individual liberty. If we give that up, we're no different than those who we oppose. Those who wish to destroy our country want to see us dissolve from within. We dissolve from within when we give up our liberties. We need to stand up and be proud of the fact that in our country, it's none of your darn business what we're reading. It's none of your business where we go to the doctor, the movie, or what our magazines are. It's nobody's business here in Washington what we're doing. If they think it's the business of law enforcement, get a warrant. Prove to somebody, at least have one step that says that person is doing something suspicious. The thing is these suspicious activity reports, 8 million of them have been filed in the last 8 years. The government doesn't have to ask for this. It's sort of like they have deputized the banks. The banks have now become sort of like police agencies. The banks are expected to know what is in the Bank Secrecy Act. They're expected to know thousands of pages of regulations, but you know what they tell your bank? If you don't report everybody, if you don't report these transactions, we'll fine you, we'll put you in jail, or we'll put you out of business. That is a problem. It is a real problem that that's what's come of this. And I think we need to have procedural protections. If at this point there was a request from the Senator of Illinois to yield for a question or for a comment, I'd be happy to if it's about the Patriot Act. Okay. The amendments that I will be proposing will be about 2 things, and we will have votes on them. We've been given the time to debate, which I'm glad we fought for. We will basically be given a virtually insurmountable hurdle. This will be maybe the first time in recent history I remember seeing this, but they will move to table my motions. In order for me to defeat the tabling motion, I'll have to get 60 votes. It is similar to the votes that we have when you have to overcome a cloture vote or you have to overcome a filibuster. But we really aren't having any vote where there's a possibility of me winning. There's really a foregone conclusion. The votes are counted in advance. I am proud of the fact that I fought for, though, and we got some debate on the floor, and that maybe in bringing this fight that the country will consider and reconsider the Patriot Act. But we need to have more debate. Senator Leahy's bill needs to be fully debated. It needs to come out. Maybe when there's not a deadline, maybe it will come forward. Maybe we can have some discussion. But I guess most of my message is that we shouldn't be fearful. We shouldn't be fearful of freedom. We shouldn't be fearful of individual liberty. And they're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to give up your liberty to catch criminals. You can catch criminals and terrorists and protect your liberty at the same time. There is a balancing act. But what we did in our hysteria after 9/11 was we didn't do any kind of balancing act. We just said, come and get it. Here's our freedom. Come and get it. We don't care whether there's review in Congress. We don't care whether there is to be an inspector general looking at this. One of my colleagues today reported, well, there's no evidence those 8 million banking investigations are bothering or doing anything to innocent people. Well, there's a reason for there being no evidence. They're secret. You're not told if your bank has been spying on you. If your bank has put in a suspicious activity report, you're not informed of that. So the bottom line is, just because there's no complaint doesn't mean there haven't been abuses. There's something called national security letters. These are written by officers of the law, by FBI agents. There's no review by judges. There have been 200,000 of these. There's been an explosion of these national security letters, and we don't know whether they're being abused because they're a secret. In fact, here's how deep the secret goes. When the Patriot Act was originally passed, you weren't allowed to tell your lawyer. If the government came to you with an FBI agent's request, you could not even tell your lawyer. This, I think, is very disturbing. They finally got around to changing that. But you know what? If I have an internet service, if I'm a server and they come to me with a policeman's request and they say, give us your records, if I tell anyone other than my attorney, I can go to jail for 5 years. What we have is a veil of secrecy, so even if the government is abusing the powers, we will never know. Madam President, can you tell me how we're doing on our time, please?
The senator has 8 minutes remaining.
Okay. Did the senator from Illinois wish to interject?
Understand that there's time on the other side as well.
28 minutes on the majority.
I would like to.
You're welcome to interject now or at a later time.
I'd like to speak on the majority side.
Okay.
The senator yield the floor.
I'll go ahead and finish up then. As we go forward on these, I would hope that there would be some deliberation and that the vote as it goes forward, people will think about that we need to balance our freedoms with our security. I think we all want security. Nobody wants what happened on 9/11 to happen again. But I think we don't need to simplify the debate to such an extent that we simply say we have to give up our liberties. For example, I can't tell you how many times people have come up to me in Washington, other elected officials, and they say, we could have gotten Moussaoui, the 19th hijacker, if we'd had the Patriot Act. The truth of the matter is that we didn't capture Moussaoui because we had poor police work. And ask yourself, did we fire anybody after 9/11? We gave people gold medals. We gave them medals of honor for their intelligent work after 9/11. To my knowledge, not one person was fired. Do you think we were doing a good job before 9/11? We had the 19th hijacker in prison or in custody for a month before 9/11. We had his computer. When they looked at Moussaoui's computer 4 days after 9/11 or the day after 9/11, they connected all the dots to most of the hijackers and to people in Pakistan. Why didn't we look at his computer? Was it because we didn't have the prerogative? They didn't ask. An FBI agent in Minnesota wrote 70 letters to his superior saying, ask for a warrant. His superiors didn't ask for a warrant. Do you think we should have done something about that after 9/11? We gave everybody in the FBI and the CIA medals. We gave the leaders medals for meritorious service, and no one blinked an eye. What did we do? We passed the Patriot Act and said, come and take our liberties, make us safe. But to make us safe, we shouldn't give up our rights to protect what we read, to protect what we view, to protect where we go and who we associate. We shouldn't allow government to troll willy-nilly through millions of records. You've heard of warrantless wiretaps. A lot of these things are unknown because they're so secret that nobody knows. Even many of us don't even know the extent of these things. But I can tell you that there is a great deal of evidence that we are looking at millions of records and that millions of innocent U.S. citizens are having their records looked at. Now, are we doing anything? Are we imprisoning innocent folks? No, I don't think we're doing that. I think they're good people. I think the people I've met with the FBI, the people I've met in our government, they want to do the right things. But what I am fearful of is that there comes a time when you've given these powers up. You know, when you recognize, for example, the constitutional discussion over war, if you say, well, Libya is just a small war, we don't care, and you say that Congress has no say in this, what happens when we get a president who decides to send 1 million troops into war and we simply say, who cares? You know, we let the president do whatever he is because he's got unlimited powers. You know, we fought a war. We fought long and hard to restrict. We wanted an executive that was bound by the chains of the Constitution. We wanted a presidency, an executive branch that was bound by the checks and balances. That's what our Constitution's about. It is about debate. Debate is important. Amendments are important. Bringing forward something from committee that would have reformed the Patriot Act is incredibly important to have those debates on the floor. And that's why there is a certain amount of disappointment to having arrived in Washington and to see the fear of debate of the Constitution, and that we really need to be debating these things. We need to have full amendments. We need to, can there be any excuse why the Inspector General should not be reviewing other agencies of government to find out if your rights are being trampled upon? So I would ask in conclusion that as these amendments come forward, that people think about it, think about our constitutional protections, but don't go out and say that, you know, the senator from Kentucky doesn't want to capture terrorists, or that the senator of Kentucky wants people to have guns and to attack us. Because the thing is we can have reasonable philosophic debates about this, but we need to be having an open debate process. We need to talk about the constitutional protections, the protections that protect us all, and we need to be aware of that. I tell people you can't protect the Second Amendment if you don't believe in the Fourth Amendment. You can't protect the Second Amendment if you don't believe in the First Amendment. It's all incredibly important, and I hope as we go forward on this vote, and even though I will likely fail because of the way the rules are set up on the vote, I hope as we go forward that at least somebody will begin to discuss this. Somebody will begin to discuss where we should have some constitutional restraint, that Senator Leahy will have a chance to bring his bill forward, that there will be a full and open debate, and I hope that we've cracked the door open, that I've been a small part of that. Thank you, Madam President, and I yield back my time.